Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We're presented and brought to you by FanDuel. We appreciate you being here and listening into this Week 8 preview of the Big Ten, as we are going to go through and give you one key position battle for every single Big Ten game in Week 8. Offensive line versus defensive line, running backs versus linebackers, wide receivers versus the secondary. It's going to be a lot of fun going through talking about what position groups need to win in each game to help dictate that for their team versus the opponent. So I'll bring on the guy who is in the midst of investing so much money right now. He is just in private equity galore. It's Zack Guggenheim.
You know, if I had one more G in my last name, that could actually be true. But unfortunately, I don't own a massive museum, so I am not investing any money like that. At least not the type of money that this private equity firm is, apparently. What the heck is going on? Why are we talking about private? Do you know what's going on with this thing?
Yeah. I mean, so I'll be honest. When I first met you, I thought, oh my gosh, is he like next to any of this like Guggenheim Museum stuff or anything? And then I looked at your name and I was like, okay, 1G. Okay, all right, never. Never mind. We got Philip here. It says ILL. I and I there, Philip. Thanks for being here, man. As per usual, Philip, long time listener, been here since the beginning, pretty much. Appreciate that, Philip. All right. So this private equity stuff, which it's not really even private equity. So that was kind of what it got classified as at the beginning, because that was the offers. They were getting this whole UC investments, which is what I think like Cal University, University of Cal type of stuff. It's more of a capital investment than private equity. When I first made the video about it, it was all private equity talk, and that's why I was so like vehemently against it. But I gotta be honest, like the more I research this stuff and the more I learn about it, I'm not really as against some of this like capital investment, UC investments type of stuff, because there's no ownership over it. Essentially, what would be happening is this UC investments would give like, I think it's like $2.4 billion to the Big Ten. The Big Ten would then distribute that to all of the member schools. And then 3 schools, I believe those schools are Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, would get the largest sum of money. And then every other school would all get, I think it's like $160 million a year or something. And then the UC investments, they would also get that payment that normally a school gets. So essentially what you're doing here is you're having UC investments come in, give you a bunch of money, and then for 20 years, the grant of rights, however long, I think that goes until 2046, essentially they keep making money as long as you make money, as long as the grant of rights is over there. I think that's the biggest thing with this, is that there's no ownership. If you were doing private equity, people would have like had to give away their grant of rights to the private equity firm. With this, it's just an investment, which I think makes it much more attractive than, private equity, in my opinion.
That's still, I feel so. Doug said it here, and again, it's not private equity, but I hope that they don't do the private equity route. Money is ruining the sport. I mean, at what point is it? And this is going to sound ridiculous, but at what point do we just have to say like enough money is enough, right? Like, I get it. Like, It would be a huge boon for the Big Ten, but like, I don't love, even as an Ohio State fan, I don't know if I love that they get a bigger cut than everybody else. I don't know if I love the idea that even more massive investors are getting involved. I don't know. It reeks of still potential manipulation and corruption, and we're already there. We don't need more of it, but maybe that's just me being an old soul and maybe all curmudgeon-y. I don't know, but
no, I totally get where you're coming from, and honestly, I felt similar to you, to where it's like, do we really need this? Like, what's going on here? And I think, at least from what I understand, from what I read, from some of the people that I talk to, it sounds like this is the Big Ten trying to separate themselves from college football and say, we are going to be the king of the sport. We are going to have the most money. We are going to be able to basically control the sport with how good our teams are. Does that mean that the Big Ten wants to, essentially go away from everybody else and create their own like Big Ten football league? I don't think so. I suppose that's possible that could happen, but I think the Big Ten knows even if they hold all the money, they still need to be connected to college football. And right now, I think Ross Dellinger was the one that put it out there was it either today or yesterday, that it's USC and Michigan that don't want to do this. And those two seem to have that for different reasons. USC isn't included in the top three, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and they want to be. I personally feel like you haven't been a part of the Big Ten all that long, so maybe that's a little, too much asking for. But at the same time, they also are a blue blood, big part of the college football. I get it. And then Michigan, I don't know what Michigan's deal is. I don't know why they don't want to go this route. I don't know if they just don't like they want to be the ones in charge or what. Maybe if there's a Michigan fan out there, they know more about why they have this thought process. But
they probably don't want to share anything with Ohio State. I mean,
well, actually, the regent was going on Twitter and he was asking Ohio State to be with him. But the problem is Ohio State loves this.
Well,
Ohio
of course
State
they do.
Like Ross Bjork is one of the biggest people for this,
which I also don't love as much of a fan as I am. But
yeah, I think the biggest thing with it right now is that USC and Michigan don't want this decision being made while they have interim presidents. I honestly think that's the biggest thing.
Which that's not a bad thought, JR, because I think you want to make sure that the leadership of your institution, whoever that's going to be, is fully invested in this and fully understands what they're getting into, because then they're going to have to make decisions out of that massive decision. So that's a really good point. Yeah. I'll just say this, this wouldn't be a thing if there was an organization that could have, actually done their job, but they didn't, called the NCAA because they stink. Sorry, we haven't said that on this show.
You haven't worn your shirt
too long, and I'm going to say it now. They stink.
Hang the shirt in the background. Listen, I hung my Illinois shirt back there because I do an Illinois show. Now, okay, you got to hang your shirt in the background. Make sure everybody knows when they come on our stance.
That's a good call. I should do that. That'll be the next part of my my background design. Which I don't know if you can see the lovely boomerang up here. There is an Ohio State. It was a gift actually from one of my teammates in ministry. He drew the Ohio State logo, and then there's a picture of my wife and I at the Ohio State Michigan game from 2016, where JT was not short.
That's what I heard. I heard he wasn't short.
No, he definitely
made the right call. You should do the Bill Plaschke, or was it Bill Plaschke? Who was the guy? No, Woody Page. You should do the Woody Page thing from around the horn where you put the quote on the whiteboard back there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I don't know if you'd be able to see it. It's kind of far back there.
Probably not.
Yeah, you should do one of those. Look up like what Woody Page put on there. So anyway, I do understand a lot of people's resentment toward the capital investment, UC investment type of stuff. I get it. I don't think it's as bad as private equity personally, in my opinion. I know I put the video out that was kind of like, this is terrible, this sucks, and it did at the time. But if it's not private equity, if it's not ownership over, the conference and all that stuff, and then also too, you have this Big Ten Enterprises with it as well. What does that do, right? What does that make? What does that do? I don't know. There's just a whole lot of mystery with it. I don't know if I necessarily like it, but I'm more okay with it since it's not private equity. And I think that's the biggest part that needs to be read into it at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. So we'll see. But all right, let's see who else we got here with us. We have Philip says that Adidas buy out Franklin's contract. They are saying that's not true. I don't know. This kind of stuff.
Landon Tangwell, who's a former player, was pretty adamant that this was not true.
Yeah.
So I mean, he might be misinformed, but
was Adidas involved? Maybe. You never know. But did they completely buy out the contract? I would say probably not. I would say the contract probably got bought out because it looks like this UC investments thing is going through, and Penn State's about to have $190 million thrown into their lap. You're about to have $190 million thrown into your lap, and you got a coach you don't like. $50 million. That's nothing.
I've been seeing like going around that there was a provision in James Franklin's contract that he immediately had to
get another job for like $8 million or more or something like that, and it has to either be a head football coach or like football media or something like that.
Yeah, and if it's not $8 million, that they only have to pay the difference. Is that what
something like that? Yeah.
So they may not be on the hook for as much as we initially thought.
Mm-hmm. Joe says, keep your hands off Cignetti, Penn State.
He's not going anywhere.
I put out the post, all the the 8 reasons why Indiana is elite right now. People need to realize Indiana's a really good job right now. I'm not saying it's a better job than somebody else or anything like that. Okay, I'm not trying to start that fight. But Indiana's a really good job right now. It's not a place that somebody wants to leave, at least my opinion. Let's see if there's anybody else here. Joe, we got Zachary here. Zachary says, I want Nebraska's governor to ban travel from Pennsylvania until PSU finds a coach that isn't Rule. Boy, the events of the press conference today. Did you hear about that stuff, Zach?
He's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Dylan Rayola says it, so must be true.
Says the guy who was committed to 2 other schools before he went to Nebraska.
Yeah, I did find a bit of comedy in that as well. But hey, we'll see what happens. It's so weird. It's so weird. I think that's everybody. Who is that? I just had Dank Coyotes here. Kyle is here. Appreciate you guys being here. Can't go through every comment because we do need to get it started. And James is here as well. Appreciate you guys being here. Let's go ahead and get into these games, Zach. We've already muddied around for about 12 minutes here at the start, so we'll get started. Nebraska at Minnesota. Nebraska is favored by 8.5 on FanDuel. I will double check in a second just to make sure that is an accurate line from where it was earlier. The over-under is set at 46.5. I have that wrong there. Minnesota's not favored by 46.5. It's Nebraska favored by 8.5 there. But this is an interesting game, Zach. So Nebraska has not won the past, I believe it's 5 meetings against Minnesota, or the past 5 meetings in Minnesota, something like that. Minnesota has done a very good job of winning this game against Nebraska. Nebraska finally ranked for the first time in a while. They got ranked in the coaches poll last year, but Indiana beat them and kind of took care of that a little bit. Won't relive that for the Nebraska fans, but Nebraska's in a really good situation here. I think that they have the head-to-head kind of matchup and a lot of the stuff. The problem is they're on the road, and Minnesota is a difficult environment to go in and play against, and Nebraska has not been good on the road in past years. Now, they just beat Maryland on the road last game, right? So it does not mean that they cannot win on the road, but they are still kind of mending some of this stuff, right? And so we need to think about it. Can Nebraska mend it all the way? Zach, there's going to be a couple position battles in this one that really help decide that. What is your position battle?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Minnesota's run game has been pretty pedestrian, which is surprising because of Darius Taylor. I know he's been hurt. Ejeboy has taken the bulk of carries. He's the leading rusher currently for the Gophers. But Nebraska's run defense has not been great. And so my position battle is running back versus linebacker. Minnesota running backs, Nebraska linebackers. I want to see that battle because I think if Minnesota can find a way to establish any semblance of a running game, Drake Lindsey has been excellent. He has been so good. And I think those receivers are underrated. If they can get any semblance of play action, I think that could really help Minnesota's cause in getting the upset. So that's my position battle I'm looking at is running back versus linebacker.
It's the same exact one I have, Zach. I mean, at this point, Nebraska, they stopped Michigan State's rushing attack. They did a really good job, but they did let up some of the rushing to Maryland, who hasn't been good this season running the ball, which kind of gives you some pause there. But, I mean, for me, Minnesota has to avoid becoming one-dimensional. It's one thing that they have done here recently when their running attack hasn't worked out. They've kind of just trusted Drake Lindsey. It's worked out for them, but the problem is that I don't think this is the type of game where that can work out out for you. It can work out for you against Purdue. It can work out for you against Rutgers, right? Those are two of those teams that can happen against, but it's not going to work out for you all that well against some of these other ones. So I pulled some of these numbers, Zach, because to me, it's not just about the linebackers of Nebraska versus the running backs of Minnesota, but it's also about the Minnesota running game, putting them in good position to be able to convert on third, fourth down, and to be able to move the ball in the red zone. Right now, Minnesota is allowing 42.2% of third down conversions for the opponent to convert. That is 87th in the country. That if you take out the Northwestern State game, I apologize. Got to make that distinction. If you take out the Northwestern State game, that's where they are. They are 60% of allowing their opponents to convert on fourth down, which is 83rd in the country. And then finally, they are allowing their opponent to score on 85% of their attempts in the red zone. That is number 67 in the country if you take out the Northwestern State game. I think that is very interesting that Minnesota is kind of struggling in that area on defense, and I think it's something that Nebraska could take advantage of because they are a team that is more able to get into those third down situations, kind of continue to move the ball. You haven't always seen this out of Nebraska to be able to put together those long drives. Now you are seeing it with the leadership of Dylan Raiola, a better running game with Emmett Johnson there. Emmett Johnson, I think, could have a big game in this one as well. But overall, it's going to be a huge battle for them to be able to get in third and favorable situations, or for Minnesota to keep Nebraska out of those situations, or for Nebraska to keep Minnesota out of those situations.
Yep, exactly. Agreed.
So, I also found out this stat, Zach. You want a little fun stat?
Let's do it. We like fun stats.
Minnesota has been in 3rd and 10 or longer 16 times this year. Do you have any idea how many times they converted those into first downs?
I'm going to say 3.
13 times.
What?
On their 16 attempts of 3rd and 10 or longer, they have converted those 13 times. It's really, really impressive, but I don't think it's sustainable, and I especially don't think it's sustainable against this Nebraska secondary. This Nebraska defense is legit. They're for real. The defensive line, they have their struggles, but they're doing a really good job of being able to kind of, get through that, and Minnesota needs to be ready on offense for sure.
Yep.
So. All right. What is your prediction, Zach?
Yeah. Well, before I get to prediction, can I just get to one comment real quick?
Sure.
I just want to, this is back to when we were talking about Raiola and joking about the press conference. I don't fully expect Rule to go to Penn State. It was just as a joke that Raiola
I think he's talking about the Dylan Raiola comment. Nebraska fans don't like it when you bring up the fact that he transferred a bunch of different high schools because people use it as ammunition that Dylan Raiola is going to transfer. We've never said that. We
don't actually think that.
Yeah.
It was meant tongue in cheek. We apologize, but we like Raiola. We've said lots of good things about Raiola on the show. And I'm about to say another one because I think Raiola has a good game, and I think Nebraska wins 28-17. I think they cover.
Yeah, I have the same scoring for Minnesota in this one. I think that Nebraska will win this one 27-17. I think that
1 point off.
Yeah.
There you go.
I do think Nebraska has been very reliant on the field goals this season, so I don't have them just straight up getting touchdowns and no field goals or anything. But I think this Nebraska defense is legit, and I think that this Nebraska defense is going to be able to travel. And I don't know if the Minnesota offensive line is. I don't think the Minnesota offensive line is I don't want to say tough enough because it sounds like I'm like going against their their like manliness or whatever, but I just don't think they get enough push to be able to push around this Nebraska defensive line to where it doesn't become a factor. I think this Nebraska defensive line might not beat this Minnesota offensive line, but I think they'll hang with them well enough to be able to stop the Minnesota run game.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I agree. And I think some people are saying like Nebraska might be distracted. I don't think they're distracted. I think Matt Rule is locked in. Like even if Matt Rule would go to Penn State, he's too much of a professional to let this distract his team. I think they're locked in. I think they'll be fine.
And I would point to every other situation he's been at, right? You think You think he never had a conversation with anybody about leaving when he was at Temple? You think he never had a conversation about leaving when he was there at the end at Baylor? Like he still won 10 games there. So
Yep.
even if he is, which we don't even know if he is at this point. I know there's like a clause in his contract that says he has to tell Dannon, Troy Dannon, the athletic director, if he is talking with other schools. So I don't know if that gets upheld or whatever. But even if that happens, like. Matt Rhule's too much of a professional. Like, there's a reason why a blue blood school is looking at hiring him. It's because he's a really darn good coach. Has he won ranked games? Not all that much, but he's still a really darn good coach. And I think you put him at a school that can get talent like Penn State. I think he's going to win a lot of games there.
Yep.
I think he's going to win a lot of games in Nebraska if he stays there. I think he's going to win a lot of games no matter where he's at.
Yep.
So, all right. And don't go at Nebraska fans. There's people in the comments saying like Nebraska fans are soft. They're not soft. They just don't like when people bring that up. Ohio State fans don't like it when you bring up the whole like planting the flag on the field. Michigan fans don't like it when you bring up I don't know, Connor Stallions. Like everybody has stuff they don't like it when you bring up with their team. So it is what it is. Like don't go out here calling other fan bases soft because they don't like when people talk about something.
Yeah. Our boy Sean, he's going Minnesota.
I would love to know the reasoning, Sean. Not that I don't think Minnesota can do it. I just, I believe in this Nebraska defense. So
yeah, this is what better line play, better QB player, and all the chatter with Rhule to PSU as a distraction. Drake Lindsay is really good. I do think though, like Raiola, aside from the 3 picks last week, like I think he's playing better than people realize.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Raiola gets dinged with, and I dinged him a little bit, right? Is like he throws the ball underneath so much, right? He throws so many screens, and so he's really allowing his receivers to make more plays than him actually making plays throwing the ball. Does that mean he's a bad quarterback? No, that just means that's the offense he's in. Do I give him as much credit for a 70-yard pass when it's a screen pass rather than if he's throwing the ball down the field on a dime 50 yards? No, but that doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. Like he's playing within the offense. As a quarterback, your main job is to operate the offense. Does every quarterback need to throw 70-yard bombs and, have pinpoint accuracy? No, every quarterback just needs to, do the offense the way they have it. So, Yep. So yeah, but Dank says, I appreciate you guys clarifying being tongue-in-cheek. He's also talked about his recruiting journey. There was a lot to it than just changing schools.
Yeah,
yes,
you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
So yeah,
and we do need to do a better job of making sure we clarify that when we're joking, because we have lost listeners before because I've not done a great job of saying I'm joking.
Yeah, and we can be more sensitive. So we want to be thoughtful, even in our jokes. So because we know humor can be tasteless and classless, and so I appreciate you saying that though, Dank. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to Washington and Michigan. I got the numbers right here on this one. So on FanDuel,
no Connor Stallions jokes now. Okay.
Yeah, no Connor. No.
Okay.
Leave the Connor out of it. Okay. We have Michigan and Washington. Michigan is favored in this one by 5.5. The over-under is 50.5 in this one, and it's going to be a really interesting game. These are two teams that are fighting for playoff contention, although neither of them is ranked. That's really, really stupid that Washington isn't ranked. They are the only team that in the Big Ten that is 5-1 and isn't ranked. Did you know that, Zach?
Oh, I knew.
Clear?
I knew.
Did I make that clear enough on Twitter?
Yeah.
The past couple days?
This is not a joke. And it's intentional. The AP poll stinks.
Yeah, okay, we are not tongue in cheek with the AP poll. No. They stink and they know it. So, but Michigan is favored in this one by 5.5. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised with how much the line is in this one, but it is at home for Michigan, and there is a perception that Washington struggles on the road. They did take care of business against Maryland, albeit a lot of that business was done in the fourth quarter. But to me, this is a very interesting game to see how these two teams play out. How does Michigan recover? You got Sharon Moore talking about blue collar, wearing his blue collar jacket to the press conference. I enjoyed all the many memes with him in the cooking outfit and the everything else and the firefighter suit. That was really, really funny to see all those memes.
There was an army. There's one with him in military garb.
I forget what the line for that one was, but I saw that one. That one made me laugh too.
Oh,
But overall, I mean, Sharon Moore, he's just trying to get his guys going. He's trying to remind them how much of a tough football team they are because really they did get pushed around by that USC squad. And that's something that Michigan fans are not used to seeing and Michigan players aren't used to have happening. Justice Haynes is questionable for this game. Sharon Moore said that in his press conference. And I feel like that's a really, really big thing in this one, Zach, if Justice Haynes plays or not. And that does impact my position battle, but I'll ask you what your position battle is.
So I saw USC throw all over the yard against Michigan. I like these receivers, man, and I like uh Damon Williams.
Freshman Roebuck and
Yeah,
everybody else, yeah.
Roebuck and obviously Denzel Boston. So I've got Washington receivers versus Michigan DBs. And like Washington has started slow the past couple weeks, actually the past several weeks. But part of that I think is youth, and I think they're starting to figure it out. You know, they were able to figure it out against Maryland, who has a good defense. They're able to figure out against Rutgers, who admittedly does not have a great defense. But like each time they figured it out. And Michigan, they have some very talented players. But I don't think we realized just how much of a drop off it would be from guys like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, which makes sense, right? 2 first rounders in the middle, clogging up that defense. It masked a lot, I think, of maybe some of the, I don't want to say deficiency because I don't think they're terrible, but like these defensive backs have issues with good passing attacks. And I think that receiver room for Washington might be able to exploit some things against Michigan.
Well, I think it's interesting because what did USC do that gave Michigan so many fits? It was that they had the screen game, right? And USC has done a good job with the screen game, but they went to it far more in this game. But you also had Nebraska, who also, like I said, Dylan Raiola, he kind of throws underneath a lot, which again is not a bad thing, but that's what he does. And Nebraska wasn't able to exploit Michigan with that kind of stuff. But I think Nebraska has good receivers too, right? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, did Michigan just not have a good day because they traveled out all the way out to California? Can Washington replicate this kind of stuff now that Michigan knows that this is something that teams are going to use against them? What are they going to do? Right? Like there's a lot of questions and all that for me. So that's why I didn't do that one, but I didn't give a lot of thought into that one. So I'm glad you brought it up as I do think it's something that needs to be talked about. Mine that I brought up was this Michigan offensive line versus the Washington defensive line.
That's a good
This
one.
Michigan offensive line needs to be really, really good in this game. If Justice Haynes doesn't play, he's questionable right now, or even if he does play and he's, a little ouchy, they need to, give him good holes to be able to run through and do a good job. In Washington, they need to make sure they don't put their linebackers in bad positions because they've struggled with injuries with their linebackers all year long. Jacob Manu sounds like he isn't even playing the rest of the year now to try to savor some eligibility stuff because of his injury, which, by the way, we talk about the eligibility rule that the NCAA is, trying to do right now, which why are you trying to make these decisions in the middle of the season? I do not understand it. It is so stupid to me. But anyway, but Washington does have a good run defense. They are third in the Big Ten in yards per game allowed, but they do have some injuries. Michigan obviously has a really good rush defense or run defense, as they're second in the Big Ten in yards per game, but they just had their worst performance of the season after having Justice Haynes injured. So there's a lot going on in this one. I feel like with Damon Williams and everything else, this one's going to be decided on the ground a lot, because I do think that Michigan's going to be prepared for some of that screenplay stuff. And when I say on the ground, I'm going to mean with Jonah Coleman and also with Damon Williams' legs, because if Michigan's defensive line is not able to contain him like Maryland did, this could be a long night, as Damon Williams could go 400 and 100, just like he did last game against Rutgers.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing that concerns me for Michigan is that there's only one defense that's really been able to slow Damon Williams down in the rush game, and that's Ohio State. Ohio State, I mean, they held him to negative 28 yards rushing. Everybody else, he's ran for at least I believe it's 67 yards. And so you've got to deal with that element. And maybe you put Barham on like as a spy, or maybe you put someone who's fat, but that's like nobody has an Arvell Reese on their roster in the Big Ten other than Ohio State. And like,
well, and Ohio State had like interior defensive linemen like tracking him down. It was kind of crazy.
yeah, but like, I mean, so you've got to be incredibly disciplined in your rush, and you need to have a dedicated spy at all times. And like, I fear that Wink, like, he might get blitz happy, and like, this is not the quarterback to get blitz happy with. So I'll go ahead and give my score prediction here.
Well, hold on. I want to bring up one more thing before you do.
Bring up one more thing.
Sorry. Okay. We were talking about a pre-show. The two best games that Michigan have played this year. What were those two best games to you?
Nebraska and Western Michigan.
Central Michigan.
Central Michigan. One of the directional Michigan schools.
Who was the coach for those two games?
I'm going to let you say it because I know where you're going with this.
Biff Poggi.
Yes.
Listen, I picked Michigan to beat USC because I thought that Sharon Moore would have the physical brand of football that he has had. And I honestly kind of want to pick Michigan in this one because I still believe that is a part of this Michigan identity. But what did I say when we picked Oregon and Penn State, Zach? I said I picked Clemson before. I'm not letting it happen again, right? I picked Texas, or I didn't pick Texas, but I believed in Texas before with their returning talent. I can believe in them again, right? I believed in these teams who have returning talent. I'm not going to believe in a team that has not shown me consistently that their identity is still there. They have shown me consistently with Biff Poggi there, but they have not shown it consistently in other games. I'll be, a big one is in that USC game. If they prove me wrong, I will believe that they are a very tough team and they can do this kind of stuff again. I'm not going to believe it until I see it again. So I'm going to go with Washington in this one. I'm going to pick them to win 27-24. I think Damon Williams has a day. I think Jonah Coleman does just enough to be able to make it happen. And I think that Denzel Boston and Desmond Roebuck together go for over 150 yards receiving and at least a touchdown or two between the two of them.
This is a heck of a thought here. Biff Poggi to Penn State.
Hey, that's the one they need. They just don't know it.
I have it a little higher scoring for Washington. I have Washington 34, Michigan 20.
Wow.
And the reason is twofold. I think Washington is so much better than the AP poll is giving them credit for. Again, I think I think legitimately it's the best trio of quarterback, running back, and wide receiver in the Big Ten. Like, not even Ohio State. Like, you could make a case for Indiana with Mendoza and the stable of backs there and Elijah Surratt. Like, you could make that argument. But like, man, Jonah Coleman, Damon Williams, Denzel Boston. I think the offensive line's playing well. The other receivers are stepping up. And Michigan, with like, even if Haynes plays, they're so one-dimensional. Like, I know Marsh has been stepping up a little bit, but I still don't buy the passing game yet. Underwood is a little gimpy. Like, I don't know how much Michigan will actually be able to score in this game. And I get that Washington's on the road, but I just think Washington is too explosive. And I think they're going to be able to exploit some of the deficiency in Michigan's defense.
I think that it's a good take. I just don't know if it's going to happen, right? We've seen it a little bit, but it's at home. And it's Washington, and Washington on the road. Washington looked better in that fourth quarter against Maryland, but you're not going to be able to win just in the fourth quarter against Michigan.
Yeah,
works for you against Maryland, but
they got to put it all together. But yeah.
So
if they start in the second quarter, they could probably still
right. Don't have a slow start. I mean, if this Washington team puts it all together for the entire time, I think it works. But So, all right, let's move on. The comment section is Philip says he saw a graphic with Jerry Neuheisel Penn State. Made me laugh. That should happen. They're all trying to find anybody but Matt Rule to go to Penn State.
Yep.
Oh, well, I guess I'll say that for later on. Never mind. All right, Zach, the one game that is burning everybody this season. Everybody's been anticipating it. Everybody's
Mm,
waiting for it. You
mm.
know it's true. Purdue at Northwestern, Zach. The over/under at this game on FanDuel is set at 47.5. You can find Northwestern favored by 3.5 in this one. It's going to be an interesting game, I think, because Northwestern currently sits at 4-2. Should Northwestern get talk to be ranked if they win this game?
No.
5-2.
Yeah,
If they win.
they beat a free falling Penn State. They beat a hapless UCLA before they were rejuvenated. I think that's a tough sell.
I don't know. If Texas, who does Texas play? I don't remember who they play. Never mind. I won't bring up Texas.
Yeah.
I'm just
Listen,
saying.
if like Washington, Illinois, Michigan, like they all have Iowa has they all have more right to be talked about being ranked than Northwestern at this point.
Mm. All right, fine. I won't bring it up again.
If they keep winning though, like yes, but like not if they beat
say,
Purdue.
what do they need to get to? If you look at their schedule, what does Northwestern need to get to in order?
I've got my schedule right here. Hold on.
To be ranked? Wow, you got paper schedule right in front of you.
Like I said, old school curmudgeon. Okay. If they beat Nebraska on the road,
that would be not this game,
week.
but next game.
Yeah. If they beat Purdue and then beat Nebraska on the road, absolutely they should be ranked. Because Nebraska should be ranked higher than 25th and above Cincinnati.
Zach, that's kind of a hot take.
Yeah. Yeah, my gosh. AP
Did we see Nebraska beat Cincinnati on a neutral field?
I wonder. I wonder.
Yeah, well, okay, let's just get into the position battle of it all. I'll go first this time because you've gone first the past two times. My position battle in this one is Ryan Brown and Preston Stone. And you might think like, why would it be two quarterbacks against each other? And it's because who could turn the ball over less? These are the two quarterbacks that have turned the ball over the most in the Big Ten at this point. These two quarterbacks lead the Big Ten in interceptions. Brown has 7 interceptions. He only has 7 touchdown passes, and Preston Stone has 6 interceptions. Brown it just feels like he's trying to do too much, and he's also under pressure. It feels like he's trying to put the team on his back a little bit, which I get it, but at the same time, and then also he had 7+ drops last game, and as much as I have talked up these Purdue wide receivers because they are so much better than last year, they also lead the Big Ten in drops, so not good for them. But Stone, he has thrown 6 interceptions. However, he also leads the Big Ten in turnover-worthy plays. He has 11 turnover-worthy plays, 6 interceptions, 5 fumbles on the year. He has been loose with the ball all season long, but here's the kicker, Zach. Here's the kicker. Northwestern has 4 takeaways this season. Do you know how many Purdue has?
I'm going to say 5.
2.
Oh.
They have 1 interception and 1 fumble recovery. But one more. Preston Stone, the last 3 games. How many turnovers does he have? Do you know?
I think I saw it. I think it's 2.
None.
He has none the past 3 games.
He has 1 turnover-worthy play, 0 turnovers the past 3 games.
I was going to say,
Preston Stone has seemed to fix the turnover issue, but we'll see. What do you think?
I was going to say, how many turnover-worthy plays were in the Tulane game? Because I know he had 4 picks. He had 4 picks in that game. So, over half.
5 or 6, something like that. But
over half were in game 1. So mine is actually similar, but it's particularly Ryan Brown versus the Northwestern pass rush. To your point, I think the more pressure Northwestern gets on Ryan Brown, the more success Northwestern can have. If they don't get any pressure on Ryan Brown, I think it actually becomes a long day for Northwestern. But I think that's the key matchup.
So would you say the Northwestern defensive line, you said?
The pass rush.
Oh, just the pass rush.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think Northwestern has this one. I'm going to predict them to win at 28-21. But I think Purdue's going to get somebody at some point. I don't like this one at Northwestern, and Northwestern kind of correcting some of their giveaway and takeaway issues here lately. I think that sets them into a good spot to go 5-2 here. But at the same time, this Purdue offense is good enough and they're potent enough, and I think Josh Henson has done a good job so far this season. They just struggle with too many turnovers. They're honestly kind of like Michigan State last year, where if they just weren't turning the ball over so much, like if they didn't throw that pick 6 against Minnesota, I think Purdue would have won that game. I mean, it was a good play by Coy Parrish, don't get me wrong. I'm giving him credit too. But if that didn't happen, I think Purdue probably wins that game. And we'd be talking about a whole different situation with them in Minnesota this week.
Yep.
So what's your prediction?
I have it a little closer. Ironically, kind of similar to the Penn State score from a week ago. I have Northwestern 23, Purdue 21.
Interesting. All right. We'll see how it goes. All right. Hey, do you want to remind everybody, please do like and subscribe to the Big Ten Huddle. There is a hype feature that you can go high up in our leaderboard of subscribers and stuff. So if you want to utilize that, please do feel free to do that. I don't know if you can do that live. I think that's only something you can do after it's already been recorded. So I think you can only do hype like once a day or something. So yeah. Actually threw 2 interceptions during the segment. That's funny. And so if you're with Joe and you don't like Purdue, please do like the video. But if you do like Purdue, please like anyway too.
Yeah, you know who we haven't heard from in a while?
The Boyle Express.
Yeah, where's DK?
Yeah, we haven't seen DK in a while, have we?
No.
Yeah, we'll have to get DK back at some point.
Yes. Off season.
Back in the chat.
Off season.
Yeah.
Oh, in the chat anytime.
Yeah, but in the chat.
Him on the show when we do another wrestling episode.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Zach. Michigan State at Indiana. Indiana is favored by 26.5 in this one on FanDuel. The over/under is currently set at 52.5. I think this is absolutely crazy, blowing my mind that Indiana is a favorite over Michigan State by 26.5. 10 years ago, would you ever thought this would be possible?
No, well, not 10 years ago. Yeah. Not D'Antonio versus Kevin Wilson. No.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it would be either. But Kirk Cinetti has built him a force there at Indiana, and they are taking teams that used to beat up on them back in the day, and they're now the ones favored by 26.5. It's pretty incredible. Now, I don't think Michigan has a shot to win this game. However, we did see UCLA beat Penn State, so maybe there's a little bit of big game, big win they just had. So maybe Indiana comes out a little slow in this one. But even if they do, I feel like they have this one in the bag. What are your thoughts on this game, and what's your position battle?
My position battle is Kurt Cignetti and the scoreboard operators. No, in all seriousness, it is whoever is the Michigan State quarterback versus the Indiana pass rush.
I think it's still Aiden Childs, isn't it?
Well, he's questionable.
Oh, okay.
Like there's a little bit of injury concern with him. I assume it will be Childs as well, but whoever is the quarterback, it's them versus the pass rush, because I think if whoever the quarterback is has enough time to throw, I think they can at least get some positive momentum. But HWF3 hits my thought exactly. I don't think a Cignetti team is capable of overlooking a team. I agree. I think this is blowout city. I think Michigan State, no offense, no shot.
Who does Indiana have after this?
Indiana, that's a great question. Indiana has UCLA at home, which might be their toughest game.
No.
At
Maryland is tougher.
At Maryland is tough. Yeah, at Maryland is tough. At Penn State, I think is still going to be.
Penn State still has talent.
Yeah, people need to understand that it really depends on how they coalesce. So,
yeah. I think this one, my position battle is more for Michigan State than it is Indiana. However, obviously, Indiana needs this to go well too. But it's gone well for them pretty much every game. So I don't know why it wouldn't go well for them. But it's this Michigan State offensive line versus the Indiana defensive line. If you want hope at all going into the rest of the season, or hope that Jonathan Smith can develop a team and continue them going forward, then you need to see this Michigan State offensive line actually put together some competent play this season. So far, you've hardly seen it at all. I mean, they got the win over Boston College, and you thought, maybe they had a chance in that USC game. I still contend that was more USC screwing up than it was Michigan State looking good. But I mean, this is a team that is just wasting at talent they have on this roster at this point, with an offensive line that really can't do anything. I mean, they have allowed the 5th most pressures in all of the Big Ten at this point. I mean, there's Purdue and some of those teams in front of them. But if you're Michigan State and you have Jonathan Smith as your head coach, you should not have this happening to you. You have Aiden Childs, Nick Marsh, Mekhi Frazier has looked good at times this season. Like, you have skilled guys on this offense. You just don't have an offensive line to actually give them opportunities to be able to work. And I think that's really frustrating right now for Aiden Childs. I think it's really frustrating for the entire offense and obviously the offensive line as well. Injuries are playing a role here, but if you can at least get, like a good quarter or two of protecting the quarterback back there, giving them some room to operate, that's enough to kind of be good for Michigan State. But overall, I don't think this is a close game. I actually have Indiana winning this one 42-3.
I have it pretty bad.
What do you have?
I have 66-10.
I don't think they'll do that much.
63-10 over Illinois.
Well, but they weren't running it up though. They were just running the ball.
I know.
Okay. So you're saying that even like Cignetti's not going to try to run it up. It's just that they're going to be so good and Michigan State can't stop them.
Listen, I know Illinois was injured in that game. I think people who expect Indiana to have a letdown need to understand that's not what Cignetti's going to let them do.
I mean, it's possible to have a letdown, but I wouldn't expect it.
It's yeah. I just wouldn't. I think Indiana will get into the 60s again in this game.
Oh, we'll see. I thought I would be, high on Indiana with 42-3, but you just blew that right out of the water.
I like. I've got Max. Our guy Max is like, yeah, I'm a believer. Number one.
You're
team.
the one that has them number one in your power rankings right now.
Number one in my poll. Number one in the power rankings. They deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think either Ohio State or Indiana could be number one. I would not argue either way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, let's move on to Penn State at Iowa. Iowa apologizes, favored in this one by 2.5. Can you bring that comment down so I can read the over/under?
Oh,
Zach?
yes. Sorry.
I can't read the
Sorry,
over/under.
Max. Sorry, Max.
Currently at, well, I'll double check FanDuel right now, but last time I checked, it is at 39.5. This is one where they're not expecting all that much offense, and yes, it is still that on FanDuel. Iowa favored by 2.5. Penn State over under at 39.5. Zach, I don't expect a whole lot of offense out of this game. If there is offense, it's going to be running the ball. I think even Iowa didn't do a great job of throwing the ball last game against Wisconsin. They really did just kind of run it wherever they wanted to. Part of that was Iowa looking good. Part of that was Wisconsin not being in their gaps. Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. We'll talk more about Wisconsin here in a few minutes, but overall, this is probably the most even game, I would say, because you have a team in Penn State where you say this team still has talent. What are they going to look like with a new head coach? You think that should rejuvenate them, right? But then on the other side, you have Iowa, who is not a top tier team in the Big Ten, but I think they're still tier 2, if not tier 2, at the very least tier 3, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, this is the game I have the hardest time picking because
yeah, me too.
Penn State is such a question mark, and Iowa's
a question mark too, kind of, right?
Yeah, and part of the problem with Iowa. Because, and I think a lot of people are saying in the chat, well, of course Iowa's going to win. Here's the problem. They do not leave you margin for error. And that has been my issue with them for the past decade, is they have not evolved offense. They have evolved a little bit under Tim Lester. I will give them that.
Much better running game.
Yeah, much better running game. But, you're still seeing just not the greatest results in the pass game. And we've criticized Jim Knowles. He's deserved it. He's still a good defensive coordinator overall. They have good talent on defense. I'm kind of at a loss because I think the question is, does Terry Smith kind of rally the troops, or is he really just a lame duck that doesn't really do much and they kind of keep going? I think that's the big question. And I just don't think we have the answers yet.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in the preseason when you were talking about Jim Knowles, and you said this is a very complicated defense, and it's going to take a couple years, to put in the system for it. I kind of said I don't know if it's going to take that long because they were running a similar defense, and I thought Jim Knowles, based on his time at Ohio State, would understand. Okay, we're trying to win this year now. Like we're not. This is not a situation where we're going out here and we're trying to make the most complicated defense in the world because you just can't do that right off the bat with a team. However, it does look that way. If it could be because the linebackers are young and Tony Rojas got hurt, or it could be because Jim Knowles just has a really complex defense and it's still taking time for the defense to be able to learn it. I don't know what the answer is there, but it's definitely something that's a factor. So I am very interested to see these Penn State linebackers versus Iowa defense or this Iowa running game, right? Because the Iowa running game is the offense. They're currently averaging 30 points per game in the Big Ten play, which is kind of crazy. More than Oregon, by the way. You want a stat that can blow your mind there. Iowa in Big Ten play averages more points per game than Oregon. That's crazy.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of this is also kick returns and stuff like that because that is all points per game. But still, like points are points. Doesn't matter how you get them. You get points. That's what matters. But this Iowa team, they do a really good job of running the ball. Kamari Moulton is a good running back. Mark Gronowski does a good job of getting out there in space and being a threat to be able to run as well. And I just don't know how these Penn State linebackers are going to be able to deal with it. Zane Durant has got a lot of crap this year for not being a great run stopper. I don't think he's the issue. I think it's the other defensive tackle they have in there with some most time. Gilliam, I think is his name. They've had him in. Ford hasn't been great either. Like, I think this Penn State defense is just not able to stop the run right now. The past 3 games, Zach, they've given up 564 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's not good.
Against really UCLA, Northwestern, and Oregon. But you should not be giving up over 500 rushing yards in 3 games against those 3 opponents.
Yep.
So, and Iowa just had their best their best game of the season outside of Albany, rushing the ball. They had 210 yards and 4 touchdowns against Wisconsin, who had the 6th best run defense in the country.
Yeah. Wisconsin's run defense is actually decent. And so
up until last game it was, and then Iowa was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You're actually not good.
So I'm going to go on the other line of scrimmage on this because Sean made this point about, Drew Aller's out for the season, which stinks. I feel so bad for that kid. Ethan Grunkmeyer.
It's a great point, Sean. It's a great point.
Yeah. Ethan Grunkmeyer is coming in as backup quarterback. He's going to be the starter. The Penn State offensive line has to hold up against what I think is maybe the most underrated defensive line in the country. And that's going to be a tall task because if they cannot protect Grunkmeyer, then it's over. There's no way that Penn State can get the offense going. It'll be like that game in 2021, right? Sean Clifford goes down and they bring in some guy that I forget his name because he was so unmemorable because of how unprepared he was. And Iowa won that game going away. If the offensive line can't protect Grunkmeyer, just forget it. It's over.
Yeah. So I'm going to give my score prediction, but then I'm going to have a caveat for why I think Penn State could win. I think Iowa wins this game because right now you have a head coach and you have a quarterback who have 0 wins together, right? Yep. Terry Smith has never, at least to my knowledge, he's never head coach an FBS school, and Ethan Grunkmeyer has never started a game in college football before. So both these guys do not have any wins. Kirk Ferentz, the most winningest Big Ten head coach in history. Mark Gronowski, the winningest starting quarterback in history of college football. It's kind of a crazy matchup when you think about it. I'm going to go with Iowa in this one, 24-10. But my caveat is, what if Terry Smith does some crazy stuff, right? What if he just tells Nicholas Singleton, you're not running the ball, dude? Because he's not been good. But James Franklin kept giving him the ball. And I kept thinking to myself, what in the world are you doing, James? Why? And Chris pointed out in your podcast with him, the other day. Like, why is Nicholas Singleton getting more carries against Northwestern
And
than
Katron
Katron
Allen.
Allen is? Like, I understand Nicholas Singleton has some more speed and the ability to break off big runs, but when have we seen it this season? Has it
Yeah.
really happened all that much to warrant that?
Yeah.
You need a ball carrier who can pick up consistent yards for you right now, and that's Katron Allen. And
Yeah.
Katron Allen could break off a big run. Maybe it's not going to get you a touchdown, but he could break off a big run for you still. So I don't know. Like, to me, there are deficiencies on this Penn State team right now that are holding them back. I don't know if Terry Smith will make that happen, but if he does, I think this could be a closer game. But I have to go with what I've seen, and what I've seen is that Iowa is the much better football team than Penn State. So I picked them 24-10. And I agree with Sean. Sean, I didn't see your score. Sorry. But I agree with Sean. So Sean and I are on the same page.
Yeah. I texted this to you, and I'm going to admit this. I'm crazy. This is gut. I'm going Penn State.
Okay.
20 to 16.
Tell me why.
I think James Franklin was just incredibly broken by the end of this. And I just don't. Chris made a good point on our show yesterday, which if you haven't watched it, it aired this morning. The Penn State guy who's in our chat, he came on and talked a little bit about just some behind the scenes stuff. He made the point that James Franklin, a lot of people thought he meddled too much. And Chris made the point that he didn't feel like he meddled enough, particularly in telling his coordinators to be better. And I wonder if Terry Smith might do that a little bit more. And again, I don't think it's my best pick, but it's a gut feel. Everybody is expecting Iowa to win. Iowa is the favorite in this game, which nobody would have picked preseason. And so when everybody is kind of going in and saying Penn State has no shot, it's kind of like UCLA, right? UCLA has no shot against Penn State. I just think there's some, like, Penn State still has one of the most talented teams in college football. Grunkmeyer is a highly rated recruit. And Iowa is the type of team that does not give you a lot of margin for error. So
we need to get you an Iowa hater cap.
I know. Maybe that's part of it.
I'm just messing with it.
I
no,
mean, I
see what
I think Iowa should win.
Iowa should win. I see what you're saying, and honestly, I don't disagree with you that those things could happen. I just look at it and say, I can't pick that, right? Like, I can't sit here and confidently say Terry Smith is going to do that, because for all I know, Terry Smith is just James Franklin 2.0 and just does everything that James Franklin does,
Yeah.
right? Like, or has Terry Smith been sitting in the background plotting and being like, look, they're not doing this, James. And James has been saying, no, we just got to continue to let our guys go and do their thing, like, like, it is, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with Terry Smith. Yeah. There is a history of new interim head coaches coming in and the team playing different and the team playing better. So it's not unfounded by you. I just don't know if this is the right opportunity for that to happen. At Kinnick, this Iowa team rolling right now, just got a big win, 37-0 against Wisconsin. I think Iowa's kind of playing with house money right now.
Yeah. At least in the past several years, so Penn State's record at Kinnick is 3-5 since 2000, but I'm pretty sure. So their last trip, they lost 23-20. Yeah, I forget that. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I would.
Well, but I appreciate you making the argument, though, because I do think it's something that needs to be talked about. I don't know if it'll happen. I'm not going to pick it to happen, but it is something that needs to be talked about. So I appreciate you, bringing that to light.
I'll be the crazy one.
Sure. Sean says, I thought James Franklin was using load management, thinking too far ahead into the playoffs. That's true, too. I would think you would get rid of the load management thing once it gets to Northwestern. Like, I could almost understand it for UCLA. But I mean, he could have been using it against UCLA, and then he's just broken after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy to think about, but could have happened. So,
Yeah.
all right. Next one, we got Zach. Very underrated, interesting game here. Maryland
This is an
at.
excellent matchup.
This is an excellent matchup. Maryland at UCLA. UCLA favored by 3.5 in this one. Maryland, the over under set for 52.5. And I'm really interested to see how this one plays out because this Maryland team has just lost two incredibly disappointing games at home. Comeback victories by the other team in the fourth quarter. Washington was down by almost. I think they were down by almost 20. I think it was 20-30 when it went into the fourth quarter in that one. And then Nebraska just had a 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter in their game against them. Incredibly disappointing for Maryland, but they do have the opportunity here. Get out of the home stadium, get on the road, kind of put all that noise behind them and go to a UCLA team that looks good right now. But at the same time, this is the same UCLA team, different coaches, but same UCLA team that lost to New Mexico and to UNLV, teams that they should not have been losing to. Nico Iamaleava has looked different. Jerry Neuheisel has done a better job of play calling. Tim Skipper, need to give him credit for the way he's leading this UCLA team. But Mike Locksley said in the last press conference after the game, he said, this is not same old Maryland. This is a new Maryland. And I think if he wants to back that up, they need to win this game against UCLA because I don't think the fans are going to believe it unless they come out with a victory here this week or maybe their next game, but probably this game is the one they need to do it.
Yeah, and I think, you have youth on the side of Maryland, which is both can help you and hurt you. On one hand, the youth kind of helps because they don't really care about the past with Maryland, right? It's not same old, same old. It's like they don't know the same old. So it's like it doesn't really matter. But they're prone to make uncharacteristic mistakes because they're young. So I think it's not my position battle, but I do think that's one thing to watch. And part of my position battle has to do with the youth, but I think that is just something to consider, especially with Malik Washington. He has looked more poised than a typical freshman, but he's still a freshman.
Right. My position battle in this one is I thought about going with Malik Washington, but I'm actually going to go with the Maryland defensive line, specifically the edge rushers and some of those outside linebacker types that they have versus UCLA's quarterback. And I'm also going to hedge in there the other rushing pieces as well. Look, Maryland's defensive line did a great job of containing Damon Williams in that game. They had constant disruption in the backfield, and they did a good job of being able to cut off some of his lanes. When Damon tried to get away, they were not there most of the time. Now, he still got his. He still had over 50 yards of rushing in that game, but they did a much better job of containing him than most other teams have done. Ohio State, obviously, is the one that did the best job there, but this is also a UCLA offensive line that was better last game. Only 4 quarterback pressures on Nico Iamaleava. I think the biggest thing here is that, to me, Nico is more experienced than Damon Williams. Damon Williams, great, but he's still young, right? He's still trying to find his way. And he's still trying to find a good way to be able to still look downfield, also to be able to carry the ball and have the threat of the throw still with the threat of the pass, some of that stuff. He does a good job with it, but I think Nico has mastered this a little bit, at least the past few games we've seen him. So I think it's going to give this Maryland defensive line, their edge rushers, a lot of fits in this one because there's going to be times it looks like where they have him hemmed in. They say, oh, we got Nico, and then Nico's just going to make some kind of play to get himself out of it, whether it's a throw or a pass or something, and it's just going to frustrate Maryland. What's your possession battle?
I think you read my list.
Oh.
That was mine. But I'll give another key, which is I think combined with that DL, I think Jalen Husky and that secondary, can they hold coverage on Quasi Gilmer and those receivers?
Mikey Matthews and those dudes, yeah.
Yeah, because if they can hold coverage and force Iamaleava to scramble and that they can actually hold the contain, that would be a good win for that defense.
Yeah, it needs to happen if Maryland wants to win this one. I think Maryland has a really good shot. I think Malik Washington's a good quarterback, but I still am concerned about those wide receivers. It still haunts me that Malik Washington made the throw to win that game against Washington, but the wide receiver just dropped it. And to me, it's like, what are you gonna do? It's how it's going, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna pick UCLA in this one. They just look like the better team right now. They look better coached. They look better disciplined. They're actually been pretty good in run defense the past couple weeks. They kind of struggled with that at the beginning. They've been just playing much more downhill, and kind of you can tell they're just playing more free out there. And I think that's one of the things that kind of gets overlooked sometimes when you get these interim head coaches. Players can just start playing more free. They get the pressure off of themselves and they start going out there and playing free, playing fast. And that's why I have UCLA winning this one. Close game, 31-28.
We have a very similar score, but different teams.
You have Maryland winning?
I do. I've said it. I'm much more of a believer in Maryland than I've ever been. And I think a lot of it, like I think Loxley has turned things around a bit. I think the culture is better. And I am a believer in Malik Washington and this young core of talent. And I think UCLA, we have to remember that they played an undermanned Michigan State team and a broken Penn State team. And I think like we knew coming into this season that even though they did have some talent, it was still not that talented. And so like at some point, I think they're going to come back down to earth. And I think this might be the game that they start to come back. I don't think they're not going to hit the floor that they did. I'm not saying that they're New Mexico bad, right? But I think at some point they start to recalibrate a little bit. And I think we also have to remember, like, yes, Maryland has to go cross country. It's not like UCLA is going to have the most intimidating home stadium. Like it.
Well, yeah, it's the travel more than the home stadium in this one.
Yeah. But like they don't have to deal with crowd noise. It is the travel, but that's only one. That's the main part of it. They don't have to deal with the crowd noise. So it's certainly still an advantage for UCLA. It's not as big as if say they were going to Autzen. So I like Maryland in this game, 31-24.
Yeah, you're going against the chat here. The chat is picking UCLA by a good amount. I got Philip saying 45-35, Sean 34-17. Appreciate when you guys put your scores in here. I forget to bring them up sometimes. John says 42-24. Yeah, and then they're talking about ticket prices.
This is your chance to catch up because like I'm picking a lot that you're not. So
yeah, this is my shot. I got to take it. Gotta take it.
Yeah.
I am interested.
My lead. No.
And Dank brings up that Maryland got the running game more going more against Nebraska last week. I am interested to see how that plays out. That was my other kind of questionable like play battle that I thought of was like, what about this Maryland running backs or this Maryland offensive line? Because Maryland's offensive line actually has done a good job in pass protection this year. Oh, sorry, Philip. But they just haven't had the run blocking that they've needed this year. So see, it's interesting. So all right, let's see. Let's go to the next one here. Oh, really fast to remind you guys, have Around the Big Ten coming out Tuesday morning. Fun episode. Going to have sunny, casual Big Ten and Matt Sheehan from Locked On Michigan State on this one. Very fun, guys. Even if you're not a fan of Illinois or Michigan State or any of those, it's still going to be a fun episode. And tune in just to see casual Big Ten. All right, Kent, he's a great time. Love having him on. And he's going to come on for Around the Big Ten coming out Thursday morning. I'll set that to premiere at 9 a.m. Would love to have you guys watch that one. All right, Zach, let's move on.
Speaking of, real quick, did you see that Jake Butt went on to College Football with Sam?
Yes, I have not got to watch it yet, but I need to.
We need to reach out to Jake Butt, see if he wants to come on.
Yeah.
You got a check mark. You're at Big Ten Media Days. Work your connections.
Okay. I will try my best.
Sorry, I'm being a little pushy right now.
Zach really wants Jake Butt on here. All right. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. So.
Okay.
All right. Ohio State at Wisconsin. Ohio State favored by 26.5, just like Indiana was favored by 26.5 in this one. But the over-under very low in this one, Zach, 41.5. I do believe that probably means they don't think Wisconsin will score very much, or if at all, which I think honestly probably good prediction by Vegas here. This Ohio State defense has looked really good, and this Wisconsin offense averaging 6.7 points per game in Big Ten play this season, less than a touchdown and an extra point. Yikes! Tough stuff there. So. Zach, I'm curious your thoughts on this game and what position battle you're going to go to. I'm not really giving Wisconsin a chance in this one, but look, UCLA beat Penn State, so I feel like we got to say that every single time we have a game like this.
UCLA also fired their coach, and Wisconsin has stubbornly not. Um, I so my it's less
Well,
about
can we
who I
talk about that for a second?
what.
I wonder if more is getting fired than Luke Fickell.
Wait, what?
I wonder if more than just Luke Fickell is getting fired, and that's why they're waiting.
Oh, like cleaning house.
Yeah, like the athletic director and everything.
Oh, that's very possible. Yeah, but you kind of need like if you're gonna do that, you should do it sooner.
I mean,
So
do you really
that
want to be out a head coach and an athletic director during the football season?
the problem though is that if you get behind on the coaching carousel,
Yeah.
like you don't get. Yeah, I've not loved how Wisconsin has handled this. Even I mean, we've talked about it for a year
Yeah.
now. How I feel like they've botched it.
It's not good. Anyway, go ahead.
So
Get
mine
yours.
is less about the game itself and more about Ohio State's progression. And it's Brian Hartline as the offensive coordinator against Wisconsin's defense. Because there have been a lot of questions about Brian Hartline's ability to call a game. And like Wisconsin defensively, they've had good moments. They've certainly had bad moments. But I think my question is if Wisconsin decides to do a cover two shell, kind of keep everything in front, they've got to find a way to attack with the passing game without just kind of like giving up on it. And like that's what it's felt like. Like Illinois, I felt like they had a cover two shell or a lot of keeping guys deep. And so they're like, all right, we'll just run the ball. And I'm like, I'm all for running the ball, but it did lack some creativity in the play calling. So I want to see Brian Hartline as he continues to progress in how he calls this game.
Yeah, I do think that there is a possibility here of like if Wisconsin defense, if their run defense kind of like has a resurgence and they play really well, right? Because Ohio State, if they have an issue, if they have a weakness on the team right now, it's their run offense. And for me, it was their power run offense, which was like their 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 situations, 4th and a yard or two, but they were 5 for 6 on those attempts last game, so I don't feel like I can say that's much weakness anymore. And that was against a good opponent in Illinois. So I don't know if it's fixed, but at least it is showing signs of being fixed right now. But I still do wonder if Ohio State gets into a situation like Michigan last year, would they be able to operate running the ball down the field if the passing game isn't working? I think the passing games won't work just fine in this game. Wisconsin's not exactly had the best, the best secondary this season. But if that does happen, how does Ohio State operate? And I'm curious to see if they are going to be able to run for 150, 200 yards against this Wisconsin team. Obviously, Iowa just did it. Ohio State should be able to do it as well, but we'll have to see how it plays out. So that's probably my position battle. I'm gonna pick Ohio State to win this game 35-0. I would honestly be surprised if Wisconsin scores a single point in this game.
Yep.
So
add 10 points for me, 45-0.
You don't think that Ryan Day will kind of like not try to embarrass Luke Fickell? I mean, they're friends.
I think that is being merciful.
Oh. Okay.
Iowa scored 37, and it's Iowa.
I know, but that was also a rivalry game. Like, you don't think Iowa wants to put a little bit more on there? I mean, I know they're running the ball a lot. It's not like they were throwing the ball over the field.
Yeah,
but
I just think I think it's probably ugly at halftime, and then they put in backups. So like 28-0, 31-0. They get a couple more touchdowns early third quarter, and then you put it out.
I think that Ohio State fans will be upset at halftime. That's my prediction.
Ooh, spicy.
Because the offense is like not going deep or something, or play calling or something. They won't like something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know if like I feel, and I remember having this conversation about Minnesota, and I was like, I don't know if Minnesota's a good matchup, and that's why I think it's like I think Ohio State might get more possessions than people might think otherwise, and I think that's kind of similar here. I think Ohio State's offense is actually going to have about 6 or 7 drives in the first half, not because they're not methodical, but because I think Wisconsin's offense is so bad that it's gonna set them up for a lot of possessions.
It's a lot of 3 and outs and stuff.
Yeah. Turnovers. Like
That's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Doreen shared the stream, reposted it. Thanks for doing that. Doreen, always appreciate when people do that. And if you come up on here, not everybody does, but if you come up in here, we'll make sure we say thanks to you for doing that, because we do appreciate it. All right. Let's talk about 2 more left, Zach. Let's talk about Oregon at Rutgers. Oregon favored in this one by 17.5 on FanDuel. The over-under was set at 60.5. I think I saw that one go up. Let me double check just to be sure, but nope, it's still set at 60.5. And yeah, 17.5 there for Oregon to be favored. I do think this one's a little interesting, Zach.
Yep.
Rutgers, really
Agreed.
good offense. Oregon having to travel across the country after a tough loss. And Rutgers is obviously not as bad as UCLA was when Penn State went and faced them. So I don't think we're going to have a repeat of that. I don't think that Rutgers is going to win this game, but there are some eerie similarities to what happened with Penn State, UCLA. Oregon, they did not expect to lose that game to Indiana. Dante Moore did not play as well as some would have thought. I think the offensive line still played well. I think they're kind of getting some crap from people that is a little unwarranted. I just don't. I think Oregon's running backs are too young, and they're not all that great in pass pro. And so that's kind of some. And I think Dante Moore started to get into his head and not playing all that well, because he kind of saw some guys coming, because they're the second half, they were always coming. But overall, I don't know. Like, am I crazy to think that Rutgers, not that Rutgers can win this game, but am I crazy to think that, like, I don't know. Am I crazy to think that, I guess I'll just have to say, am I crazy to think Rutgers is going to win this game? Or could win this game? Not is going to, could win this game.
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's unlikely. But we've said it before. Rutgers is underrated in their receiver room. And I think, like, if you look back to who they've played, right? As much as people want to give me the Iowa hater cap, like, Iowa is still they're a good team that I think is going to give Oregon some issues later on this season. And they came close to beating Iowa. I think you can make a case that they probably should have beat Minnesota. Maybe not should have.
I was say Drake Lindsay still played well in that game.
Yeah, but they controlled that game for a good chunk of it. And then, like, they started out well against Washington. Washington finished them off, but there is enough about Rutgers. But I'll just say this. I don't think, like, Rutgers has had a tough schedule, and it's only going to get tougher. But they have pieces that if you're sitting there, you're like, well, Rutgers is Rutgers. They stink. They don't stink.
No, they don't stink at all.
Callie McManus has really improved. The receiver room is good. I think Antoine Raymond is playing some good football right now. So I don't, like, I think this is going to be a high scoring game. And I think if Dante Moore has a game where he turns the ball over a couple times, like, Rutgers has a shot, especially at home. I think it's at night, right? It's a night game at home.
Night game. I don't know if it's a night game. I forget I think it was 3:30.
Is it a 3:30 kick?
Yeah.
But still,
so
like,
I'll double check.
And I like.
No, it's 6:30. You're right.
6:30. So night game on the road, right after a loss. like there are things there for an upset.
Yeah, my position battle in this one, and I don't know if this will cause the upset or not, but I definitely think this position group needs to prove themselves a little bit more. And if they don't, I mean, if they're not careful, this could be part of the upset. But it's the Oregon defensive backs versus these Rutgers wide receivers
Yep.
because I think Alec Manis is going to test them, right? I mean, he's a gunslinger. We've said this for a while now. Ethan Kaliak Manis is going to test them. He is going to throw balls into situations that are 50-50. The thing right now is that Rutgers has really, really good wide receivers. So they don't get picked off nearly as much as they have in the past because Ethan Kaliak Manis has reliable targets to be able to throw to. The issue here for Oregon is the kind of youth in that secondary. And I say that even with Brandon Finney, the true freshman, being the one that got the pick six against Fernando Mendoza, right? So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It is interesting to be able to think about. I do think that Oregon's offense is maybe not as good as we thought based on what they did against, Oklahoma State and some of those teams. But I do think that Dante Moore has an opportunity here to really go out, prove himself, put up some big numbers, and people make sure people don't think about that because this Rutgers defense, as you and I have talked about before, secondary is not great. The defensive line isn't great. I think the linebackers are okay. Dejaborme is good, but they
Mm-hmm.
did lose one of their starting linebackers. I forget who that was. It Abram Wright? No, it wasn't Wright. It was the other one. But they did lose him to injury, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I think a big part of this one is going to be Rutgers' ability to stop Dier Hill, Jordan Davison, and those dudes in the backfield. So that way they put Ethan Kaliak Manis in a situation where he can't just throw the ball. Like they're going to have to, or sorry, they're going to have to stop them. So that way Dante Moore is in a situation where he has to be able to throw the ball. And we'll see if Rutgers' secondary can do anything against them or if their pass rushers can take him down in the backfield at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think similarly, my main on the other side of the ball, Rutgers offensive line versus Oregon defensive line. Because if Rutgers can neutralize Oregon and their pass rush, this can be a shootout. And I think Rutgers, like, this is going to sound crazy. I actually would trust Rutgers more in a shootout than Oregon because I think
But
Oregon
against the
has,
Rutgers defense, though,
well, but here's my point. Like, I think there are things about Oregon's offense that are not as good as people realize. Like, I think Dante Moore has struggled at times. I think those running backs have not been consistent. And like as good as the receivers have been, like we love DeCory and Moore, they're still like how many they had one explosive offensive play against Indiana, and it was a coverage breakdown. That's it. They are lucky they scored 20. It should have been 13. And like people like against Penn State, who we've just talked about how the defense has not been as good, they only scored 17 against Penn State, right?
mm-hmm.
In regulation. So now I think I agree with your assessment as well, which is why I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that Rutgers will be able to score enough with Oregon because of the deficiencies in Rutgers defense. But if Rutgers and Oregon can get into a shootout and they can protect Kaliak Manis, then I think they do have a puncher's chance here.
Sean is letting us know it's Walker that injured. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
Dank is saying that Oregon hasn't shown the offensive firepower they're known for. We're kind of making the assumption it's Oregon, so it's offense. I would add to that, we're also making that assumption because of the Rutgers defense. I mean,
Yep.
everybody has scored on the Rutgers defense, and I
Yep.
don't. I don't think Rutgers defense is anything more than what Oklahoma State's defense is, or some of these other ones. Northwestern's defense held Oregon to 38. I think Rutgers defense is worse than Northwestern, so they're probably going to
Yep.
score more than 38, in my opinion. But that's also kind of transitive property talk, so I would understand if somebody. All that in saying, Dank, I'm not just assuming because it's Rutgers offense. I'm also taking the Oregon's offense. I'm also taking into account
Mm-hmm.
Rutgers defense as well. At least that's my personal opinion. I think this is a game where Oregon starts slow, and I think this game could be 21-21 at halftime. and people
Mhm.
kind of like look around like, oh no, look what's
Here we
going on
go.
here.
Here we
Like,
go.
is Oregon going to sleep a little bit? But what's happened in the halftime of these Rutgers games, Zach?
They
They kind of
collapsed
fall
in the
asleep.
second half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They kind of
Yeah.
fall asleep. They kind of collapse, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Rutgers puts up 21 points in the first half. They get a field goal at best in the second half, and I think Oregon wins this one 42-21.
We have the same margin of victory, and I think the same game, game breakdown. Like I have 48-27 Oregon.
Mm.
Um I I would not be shocked, and I'll say this, if Rutgers actually keeps it closer and they actually score more. I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off the upset. You know, Sean said it in the chat. They should have beat Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they should beat Iowa for
They
sure.
should have beat Iowa. And I think Iowa's gonna. I'm gonna say this now, so the Iowa hater or the people that think I hate Iowa, like, will understand that I actually do. I do have respect for Iowa. I would not be shocked if Iowa upsets Oregon in Kinnick in a few weeks, because I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Oregon. The way that their lines have played a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, you just picked Penn State to beat Iowa, though. I think Penn State's the more likely win than Oregon.
I understand that. Just
Okay.
That's more about Penn State than it is about Iowa.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, I will pick. I
So you had 48-27 is what you're saying.
I think Oregon's gonna get it done ultimately.
Okay. Dank said, "Oh yeah, I wasn't disagreeing. It's just holistically on the season. I'm not seeing. I'm used to seeing a little more explosiveness from them." Okay, sorry. I thought you were talking about us there, Dank. But yeah, they definitely are not as explosive in these bigger games, right? I mean, they had what three points halfway through the third quarter there against Penn State. Yeah, I mean, this is not the Oregon offense that we thought we were going to see when we were putting up 60, 70 points at the beginning of the season, and now they've stalled a little bit, which you know what? That's what happens when you not wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 is a true freshman, when 2 of your best running backs are true freshmen. Like, that's kind of what happens.
Yep. Well, and again, we were saying it at the beginning, everybody's looking at those wins against Oklahoma State and Oregon State, and you're like, oh, look at the fireworks. They like literally suck. Those teams are terrible. I mean, worse than any team in the Big Ten by a mile. Like almost as bad as the worst team in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Sorry, I just
well, you know who's going to let you know who's the worst
dig
teams in the
SEC.
SEC on Thursday? You know who that is, Zach, right?
Who is that?
That's Jeff. Jeff is going to come on here Thursday
there
night.
go.
He's going to give his, well, I don't know if he said SEC. I think maybe he just said Big Ten, but at least he'll let you know the team he thinks is the worst in the Big Ten, as he's going to do his Big Ten tiers on Thursday night here at 9 p.m. I Bleav he's going to record that again, but it'll premiere at that time. And then if you listen on podcast, you can find that Friday morning. That should be posted by 6 a.m. there as well. Did you want to say something, Zach?
No, I was gonna say something snarky, and I'm gonna
You're gonna let that one slide.
Yeah.
No time for snarkiness, Zach. We're about an hour and a half in, and we still have one more game, so no more snarkiness.
Mm.
All right, USC at Notre Dame. I'm excited for this one, Zach. This is our final game that we'll bring up. I am very interested on why Notre Dame is favored by 9.5 here. I think that is incredibly too high. I understand it's at Notre Dame, and you could figure in, USC's kind of struggled on the road a little bit, but they beat Purdue earlier this season. I say this quietly because I don't want Illinois fans to get mad at me, but they could have very well beat Illinois. They had a 75-yard touchdown pass that came back. Who knows if they still did? But that they played well against Illinois. I shouldn't say that they should have beat them, but I should say they played well against Illinois. So this is not the same USC team that we've seen in the past where they just go on the road and they completely collapse. And honestly, Zach, I don't love this Notre Dame team as much as other people do. I don't think the defense is as strong, and the defense has looked better these past 3 games. But who have they played? Arkansas, Boise State, NC State. I got news for you. USC is way better than all three of those teams, and they have a way better offense than all three of those teams. This is a game where Jaden Mayava, Makai Lemon are going to have to be huge for them, as USC is still struggling with a lot. Eli Sanders being out for the season, Waymon Jordan not going to be back for this one. They're going to be relying on most likely the true freshman walk-on King Miller, maybe even Bryant Jackson. Of course, they'll have to take him off the injury list this time. They got fined for that happening. But Zach, I'm interested. Like I said, -9.5 favored Notre Dame on FanDuel in this one. What's your thoughts on the spread? And then give me your position battle you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think the spread is a result that Notre Dame was 3 points away from Texas A&M and 3 points away from Miami, who are two playoff favorites right now. So I don't love that logic because they lost. And I think that Miami game was probably a little bit more. It was close in score, but I think especially in the first half, I felt like Miami kind of took it to them. I also just I understand why Notre Dame is favored. They're at home. I do feel like this is still kind of reading in the projection from preseason.
Oh, it 100% is. Yeah.
Yeah. And because again, I need to look up their schedule for a minute. But I don't feel like Notre Dame has been all that impressive in their wins. Like they played NC State, which like NC State's not good. Now they took Arkansas to the woodshed. Which Arkansas is not great, but like they beat Arkansas worse than anybody else. Purdue, they scored a lot on Purdue, but again, like I think Purdue's gotten better, but I'm like, okay, but it's Purdue. And then they beat Boise 28-7. So against the teams that they were supposed to beat, they have had sizable margins of victory, but nothing that's been so like, oh yeah, like that's much worse. I mean, they were favored to win by 24.5 against Purdue. They won by 26. But it was close at half. Like it was only a 12-point margin at half. So I don't know. I feel like it should be more like 6.5.
Yeah. That feels better to me.
Yeah.
So I saw this graphic on Twitter today by K Ford. His ratings. He has a lot of really good ratings, and it made a lot of sense to me. Obviously, Notre Dame is all the way up at the overranked at 13. And Illinois was all the way down there at underranked at 14, because what have we been saying for all this time? What is the true difference between Notre Dame and Illinois? Yes, Illinois lost by more points to Indiana, but you could also make a very good argument that Indiana and Ohio State are both way better than Miami and Texas A&M, right? I mean, Ohio State, the odds makers have come out and said Ohio State would be a touchdown favorite over Texas A&M at this point. So yep. To me, it's kind of crazy that Notre Dame is this high, Illinois is this low. It makes me think that this is a much closer game than people are going to give it credit for. And it's honestly going to be kind of like the Illinois USC game. Can yep. USC make the plays that they didn't make in that Illinois game to be able to win the game? Because guess what? Notre Dame has really good running backs. Illinois has really good wide receivers. Notre Dame has a really good quarterback in CJ Carr. Illinois has a really good running back or quarterback and Luke Altmaier. And honestly, the Notre Dame offensive line has not been fantastic this year, and that's where I start with my position battle is this Notre Dame's pass protection versus this USC pass rush. This USC pass rush began the year in the first 3 games tied for the most sacks per game. They had 14 sacks in the first 3 games this season. The past 3 games, they have only had 6 sacks, which is not even half of how many they had in the first 3 games. You can attribute that to guys like Eric Gentry and Devin Tompkins not being as good as they were, but you could also just attribute it to better offensive line play. And don't get me wrong, Notre Dame has a good offensive line. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's fantastic, but I would say that's where they lost to Miami and Texas A&M more than anything else, was in the trenches. And if USC wants to win this game, yes, they have Makai Lemon. Yes, they have Jada Maiava. Yes, they have a good run scheme that they can run their guys with right now. And I really like what they're doing on offense. But a lot of this comes down to, can they put pressure on the young CJ Carr?
Mm-hmm.
If they can put consistent pressure on him and they can stop Jeremiah Love and Jaden Price and these good running backs that they have, then and I don't even stop them, like keep them under 17 points or anything like that. I just mean stop them in the key critical moments, so that way when this game is in the 30s or 40s, USC can get the last touchdown or the last field goal to win the game. And I think USC can make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, and I did want to say one more thing. Notre Dame's offensive line has allowed 34 QB pressures so far this season. Zach, I went through and took notes on how many quarterback pressures every single Big Ten team has allowed. Do you have any idea where that would rank in the Big Ten? 34 QB pressures by an offensive line.
I do not know.
That would rank, if you were going by, oops, I should do it the other way instead of that way. If you were going by lowest QB pressures to highest, that would rank just below USC at ninth, in the very middle of the Big Ten. USC's offensive line has allowed 33 QB pressures this season. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say Notre Dame's offensive line has been bad, but I definitely don't think it's as good as some people think it is.
It hasn't been as good as people thought it would be, for sure.
Anthony Knapp, the left tackle, has struggled. They have a right guard that's not been so good. Their center hasn't been fantastic. I'm just talking in pass pro here. But yeah, what's your position about, Zach?
It's the same.
Oh,
yeah, USC D line versus Notre Dame offensive line.
Yeah, it's Lambert, the right guard there. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, or did I?
No, I think you said it all. So, but I can give my score prediction if you would like it.
Sure.
I think people have been underrating USC all season, and I think you said it best. They probably should be 6-0. Like,
I don't know if I would say they should be. But
they had a chance to be.
They had a chance to be. Yeah.
I know Illinois fans are about to get mad at me. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, Illinois fans, it's kind of like the same argument they're making with Ohio State, right? Like it was a closer game than the stuff indicated. Well, you can make the same argument with USC in Illinois if you want to make that argument. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I think Notre Dame. Yeah, I was just looking back at the Notre Dame Miami game. People forget, like, Miami was up like by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
This is why I don't believe in Miami all that much. They let teams back into it at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I'm like, how much of that was Miami kind of letting off the gas versus Notre Dame coming to get it? And I get that there's deficiencies with Michigan. But I think Lincoln Riley's going to have a plan offensively for Notre Dame. I think Jaden Maiava has played much better. I think he's going to play turnover free. I think this might be the best group of receivers that Notre Dame's going to face. And I know there's a lot about Malachi Toney, but listen, Malachi Toney played his first game against Notre Dame. I get Toney's really, really good. Makai Lemon is a dude, and he's been doing it for a long time. Like, I think this group of receivers is going to be very, very difficult for Notre Dame to stop.
I literally said, Zach, during the Michigan game to myself, I literally said I should have picked USC because they have Makai Lemon. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's high scoring because I think Notre Dame will get theirs. But I think USC wins 38, Notre Dame 31.
Listen, USC has not won this game in a while in South Bend. At least I don't think they have. I'll go
They
back and
won
do my.
in 22, I think.
Oh, was it 22? Okay.
No, I'm wrong. Sorry. Hold on. Let me look at
Let's say
history. You keep
I'm thinking
talking.
about in South Bend. That's what I'm thinking of. Not
Yeah.
just like won that game, but won it in South Bend.
I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that I think, as far as I'm concerned, I doubted USC against Michigan because I did not think about all the factors of this USC team and how Lincoln Riley, if you get into a shootout with him, I actually trust him best in those type of scenarios. If you get into a late fourth quarter situation, as Philip articulated there in the chat, Brett Bielema, outcoached him in that situation. I don't feel great about it. I think Marcus Freeman is a better in-game coach than Lincoln Riley, so I do think this is where it could bite me in the butt. But I'm going to pick USC to win this game because I think in a shootout situation, Lincoln Riley is going to be much more comfortable and be making better decisions for his team than Marcus Freeman will be. Now, if you are in the 2-minute warning and you're 30 yards away from the touchdown, please don't score a touchdown right away. Lincoln Riley, don't make me look stupid here. But overall, I think that Lincoln Riley is continuing to evolve. He's continuing to get better as a coach. I think that Michigan game said a lot about him, that his team was able to go out there and bully that Michigan team after they got bullied last year instead. And I think that, like I said, USC is going to get the win in this one. A lot of the same reasons you said, the wide receivers, the quarterback play. I think CJ Carr is a good quarterback, but I think these last few weeks for Notre Dame have kind of been fool's gold a little bit. They haven't played good competition. They're living off this idea of they lost to two great teams at the beginning of the year. I don't think there's any other great teams in college football other than Indiana and Ohio State. I think those are the two. I think everybody else is, good or goodish. And I think if you lose to Miami and Texas A&M, I think you can lose USC. The only hesitancy I have two things: Marcus Freeman as a head coach in game, and a road game for USC. Those are my only two hesitancies. I think in a neutral field, USC wins this game.
Yep. You are right. The last time that USC defeated Notre Dame in Notre Dame Stadium, 2011.
In Notre Dame, okay.
Yep. The last time USC beat Notre Dame was in 2022, but that was in LA.
Yeah, Notre Dame's been on a win streak against them. Time to take it down, USC. Make it happen.
Yep.
So
I like it.
All right. As I say, you have anything else in this game?
I do not.
All right. Let's finish it off with our SEC upset pick, Zach. You go ahead and go with yours first.
Give me Bobby Petrino going back to Arkansas to take down the Aggies to give them their first loss.
I like it. You're a Bobby Petrino believer now. Is that what you are in life?
Just as long as he doesn't ride a motorcycle afterwards.
Listen, if the SEC has all this parity that they talk about, then South Carolina needs to beat Oklahoma this weekend. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite. Apparently, South Carolina is just the greatest quality win in the world. LSU, Vanderbilt, and Missouri, their only quality win is South Carolina. But I got people on Twitter telling me that South Carolina is a better win than Maryland. It's not. It's absolutely ridiculous. But apparently, if only Washington had played South Carolina instead of Maryland, they would be in the top 25. But I made that post on Twitter and got some SEC fans mad. But which I got a South Carolina guy pretty good. Did you see that?
I didn't see it. No.
He quoted my tweet and said, "But yeah, who has Washington beat? Maryland?" ? I just responded. I said Maryland is a better team than South Carolina. He said, "By what or by whose metric or idea or whatever?" And I put SP Plus with the ESPN logo on it. I said, "Your own conference's propaganda machine." Because they're ranked 31st in SP Plus, and South Carolina's like 40 or something.
Well done. I'm proud of you for that. That's awesome.
He did not respond after that. So.
I loved how most people, when they looked at your top 25 that were upset, were Tennessee fans. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
Oh, you're mad because he put Tennessee 22nd, which is where they probably should be. Like, come on. They're terrible. They're going to get destroyed by Alabama this week. And it's going to be glorious.
Well, It's the same thing with Tennessee. Who have they beat? You just beat Mississippi State in overtime. Did they go to overtime with Arkansas, or did they?
I don't. No, they beat them by 3.
Yeah, they beat them by 3. Arkansas came back in the fourth quarter, and I mean, I want to say almost. They had 2 minutes left after they scored, so they could have got like an onside kick or something like that. So I guess it
Yeah.
wasn't really almost, but still, like, uh, it's like
Listen,
I don't understand. I don't understand what the fascination is with a team like Tennessee, whose best win is Syracuse. Syracuse stinks.
yeah, Syracuse lost 38-3 at home to Duke.
Yeah.
Duke
So
that got beat 45-19 by Illinois. Why is Illinois not ranked?
well, and like like who has Tennessee beat? Like they have the same thing going for them that like people want to knock me for believing in Illinois for. It's like, oh, well, all you do is say, who did they lose to? Well, yeah, that's the best part of Tennessee's resume is they went to overtime against Georgia. Guess what? They also went to overtime against Mississippi State. If I say that, people are going to be like, oh, Mississippi State, they beat Arizona State. They're good. Okay. They beat a Big 12 team. Congrats.
Georgia is not good. I'm so tired of the Georgia hype.
I was just clapping.
Yeah. Goodness. Discipline your players for driving fast, Kirby. Like, come on, man.
Or just, get a pass rush.
You know what's terrible? Georgia's playing Ole Miss this week. And somebody's going to, like, one of those teams is going to win. And someone's going to be like, it's another top 10 win for one of these teams. It's like, both of them suck.
Which two?
Like, Ole Miss and Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Ole Miss.
And neither of them will drop all that far.
Ole Miss should have lost to a team that Washington beat by 31. What are we doing?
The only thing I will say about that is the score was a little deceiving. That game was a touchdown game in like the third quarter, but Washington finished the game way, way better than Ole Miss did. They ended up blowing them out. So yes, yeah. they deserve beating them by like, what was it, 31 or something? 59 to 24, I think it was.
Listen, if Alabama, or no, if Georgia, if Ole Miss was only winning by a touchdown and then one ended up winning by 31, everybody would be saying, look how dominant Ole Miss is. They're like another SEC power. So I get the caveat. I appreciate the caveat because we want to be as unbiased as possible, but also the SEC they would just mount it on a wall that Ole Miss beat Washington State by 31 if they could. So I'm going to say Washington beat Washington State by 31, and that should matter.
I love it. Oh boy. Well, we will see if the parity. What do you say?
I knew.
I
am triggered. I am. It's ridiculous.
Well, if the SEC has as much parity as they say they do, then a South Carolina team that is 3-3 and apparently the best quality win in the world for 3 different SEC teams should beat Oklahoma. But if they do not, if South Carolina loses this weekend, do you think that Mizzou, Vanderbilt, and LSU will move down at all?
No, because the AP poll's stupid. Although Vandy and LSU play each other this week, which means one of them will move up, and then the other one will move up because they played such a great team.
Well, Vanderbilt plays at home, so watch. Vanderbilt will... Man, could you imagine if Penn State hires Clark Lee, the Vanderbilt head coach?
The Vandy Penn State pipeline, baby.
I keep seeing that name pop up there. I'm like, guys, don't do it.
Do you think Diego Pavia transfers to Penn State if they get Clark Lee?
Does he have eligibility left? I thought it was just this year.
Was it just this year?
Yeah.
The NCAA stinks. They'll find a 7th year for him.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Hold on.
Well, Missouri plays Auburn this weekend, so I'm sure they'll get a quality win from playing at Auburn. Because Georgia didn't move at all, but... All right. There are a couple people in the chat asking a couple questions about earlier. John says, who was the key position for the Huskies? I just got home. I had the Washington, the Washington defensive line because you could say the Washington linebackers versus Michigan's running backs with Justice Haynes being questionable, but I think the defensive line of Washington going up against Michigan's offensive line is going to be really impactful in this one, considering there are injuries kind of on both sides there for Michigan's running backs and Washington's linebackers, specifically Manu. I think Manu is the best run defender and as those linebackers, but and then you had the same thing there, right, Zach?
I had the receivers.
You had the receivers, that's right.
Yeah, receivers.
So because you think they need to take advantage of Michigan's secondary like USC's did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Kurt says, "Hey, I'm late here, but can we go back to the Big Ten investment money? Have the top three not benefited from illegal funding of money for the last 20 years?" I'm not sure what you mean about with the illegal funding of money in that way, but we did talk about it at the beginning for probably 10 minutes or something like that, and just basically talked about how, it's an investment. It's not private equity. I think that makes it a little bit different and makes it not as bad as maybe it was with private equity. But we talked about it for a good 8-10 minutes there at the beginning. So you can go back and listen to it there. So thanks for being here, Kurt. All right. Surging Turp says Maryland and UCLA. Talked about that one right after Penn State, Iowa, Maryland's defensive line and UCLA's QBs. I want to see Maryland contain Nico like they contain DeMont Williams. I think that's going to be key.
Yep.
So,
I think I had
is that what you had?
I think that's what I had too. Yeah, Maryland defensive line versus Nico.
Mm-hmm. So, Dick says you guys think UCLA made the playoffs. It is technically possible. I do not think so. Unfortunately,
they would need to win the Big Ten to do that.
Yeah, but they can't. They can't win the Big Ten with 2 losses right now. I don't think.
Well, hold on. No, they only have one loss in conference.
Oh, that's right. They do. That's right. Northwestern's the only one.
Yeah, and they play both Indiana and Ohio State. So if they win out,
there you go.
They would make the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, there you go. So Max says late night for the normal Big Ten huddle. Philip must be loving this. I'm sure he is. I'm sure Philip is.
It's time to go to bed.
All about it. Yeah, I figured you end it there. So thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for being here, Zach. And please do share the show, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Really helps us out. If you're listening on podcasts, 5-star rating and review. We just gave you like a 2-hour podcast here. So, if you listen to the entire 2 hours, you must like the show. So give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out. Zach, anything else before we get out of here?
I was just like, make sure you go and check out the show I did with the Penn State guy. I thought it was very informative. Yeah. Speaking of which, Penn State guy, Chris, you're the man. Appreciated having you on yesterday or this morning because it went. But
Chris is very confident in the Matt Rule edition there.
Yeah. But definitely go check that out. I thought we had a really good conversation. So
yes, it was a really good show. And Penn State guy, Chris, he knows his stuff, and we appreciate him coming on, giving us time, and doing that. So thanks everybody for listening, for being here, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.